Hello, good morning, and welcome to this edition of Highlights. We are reaching you from our studios here in Port Harcourt. Of course, the program is streaming on our social media handle. Like our page and subscribe to our channels to get updates of our news and programs. Notwithstanding the challenges facing the democracy in Nigeria, the vast majority of the populace still subscribe to the realization that democracy is the preferred system of government in the country as basis for societal development. The realities, of course, is indicative that the democracy in place isn't at its optimum. The place of democratic institutions towards engendering development and bringing about the dividends becomes critical essence of our conversation on this program. Democratic institutions are seen to promote the operations of democracy. They are those institutions that make democracy to work, such as the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, political parties, pressure groups, INEC, the police, among others. At many fora, concerned stakeholders have continued to push for our strong democratic institutions in Nigeria rather than strong individuals to help build a vibrant democracy in the country capable of stimulating good governance and development. Our guests on the program will be sharing their thoughts on strengthening Nigeria's democratic institutions. I'm Kingsley Amajiri, your anchor. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Joining me to have this conversation on strengthening Nigeria's democratic institutions. Here in the studios, I have Comrade Peace Akabo. He's from the Civil Society Group. Comrade Akabo, welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Nigerians.
We have our second guest who will be joining us via Zoom. Is Barrister Isaiah Kami. He's our constitutional lawyer. Isaiah Kami, welcome to the program. All right, let's open our conversation with our guests in the studios. We are looking at Nigeria's democratic institutions. How do we strengthen these institutions in order to deliver on the dividends of democracy and make the democratic experience work? Let's start by asking you your thoughts about Nigeria's democratic experience so far.
Well, Nigeria's democracy experience so far is being talked about over time. And we'll continue to talk until we get it better. Remember, Nigerian democracy is anchored on republicanism. And when we're talking about republicanism, which is the same thing as democracy, we're talking about where the power belongs to the people. And if the power belongs to the people, automatically the people will choose whoever becomes their leader. And that was the essence of 1963 Constitutional Conference in 1963, which made Nigeria a republic after Nigeria got independent in 1960. Till then, Nigeria has always determined who becomes the president, who becomes members of the parliament from the states, the local, and of course the federal. But there is a problem. The journey of our democracy thus far, I want to dwell within the Fourth Republic, starting from 1999 date, when Nigeria, after back years in 1979 and all that, Nigeria said the best way to go is democracy. Nigeria's democracy has been struggling. We are not striving at all. We are not making headway. The reason is simple. You see, the process through which our leaders emerge in Nigeria has always been questionable rather. And that is why I want to say that Nigerian democracy has been struggling over time. And there is no other way we can strengthen democracy if not to return the power to the people, which of course Nigeria as a republic nation. So having said that, there are key players in democratic institutions, and these key players are what is known as pillars of democracy. The people are there, political parties are there, rule of law, supremacy of the law, judiciary, and all that. Everybody must put hands on deck to make sure that our democratic institution work. And it cannot work if we lack national consciousness. It is only a country that have national consciousness that will always allow her democratic institutions to work, and continue to work the way it must be. So in as much as Nigerian states, we've not been able to determine which way forward on how to strengthen our democracy, we continue to get what we are having today. Because Nigerian democracy has been hijacked by enemies, those who are not patriotic citizens of this country. Because if we are patriotic enough, like America and other developed nations, I think the process with which leaders emerge in Nigeria would have been more excellent, would have been more honorable. In as much as the governors and the president answers, we address them as excellent. We also address the assembly members, rep and all that, we address them as honorables. So the means with which our leaders emerge must be excellent, and as well must be very, very much honorable. So without which we continue to go backwards instead of going forward as a nation.
Before I bring in the constitutional lawyer, Barrister Kamwe, to share his thought, let me take you to another key issue in our conversation today, talking about the place of democratic institutions. At various fora, there have been this continuous push for a strong democratic institutions to be built in Nigeria as against strong individuals. How would you reflect on this quest for strong democratic institutions against strong individuals in our democracy?
That quest is long overdue, and it is through one important means we can get to that strong institution. And what is it? Judiciary. The three arms of government must be very, very much effective. If the three arms of government are very much effective, we are going to produce strong institutions, not strong individuals. You understand my point? So, and in every strong democratic nation, the legislatures are the fulcrum. The legislatures are the brain box of effective democratic institution. You understand my point? Because by checks and balances, they will be able to streamline activities of the executive and of course the judiciary. So if the legislatures are very much up to date, if the legislatures are very, very effective and efficient in discharge of their duties, Nigerian system will work. But in as much as the legislatures pay deaf ears, Nigerian democracy will continue to be impotent the way it is. Nigerian democracy will continue to collapse the way it's sliding. Because you cannot operate a system where the legislatures will always want to, fraternize with the executive without proper checks and balances. Because if you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, it would have been enough for the legislatures to say, executive, this is rascal. The judiciary, this is rascal. We have seen these cases in Nigeria. In the internet, those of you who are in the media, you will attest to the fact that it's becoming a joke. Nigerian system is becoming a joke in terms of our democratic institutions, where you go to judiciary, you procure judgment, where the executive would want to have their way. They have to lobby or involve the legislature, and they will always want to have their way. So if, like I said earlier, if we have effective legislature, every other thing could fall in place. And of course, those in the executive who is the head of administration in Nigeria, if they are also ready to work, if they are patriotic enough, if they have this national consciousness within their arms, I think it will help to a large extent, because they cannot romance with corrupt officials. But in as much as the executive continue to pay deaf ears, continue to pay lip service to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigeria, it will be very difficult. Very, very difficult indeed. And of course, the civil society and the oppressed in the society should also be allowed to be educated to their rights. Because if they're educated to their rights, they will start demanding what belongs to them. You understand my point? And that is why Desmond Tutu will always want to say that disobedient to tyranny is obedient to God. So if the people are well educated, they will want to front what their demands are. They will want to demand for accountability. You understand my point? And thereby resorting to civil disobedience on them. So, but if the executive deny the people the access to quality and effective education, at the same time deny them quality and effective governance, it becomes a serious problem.
Let me pause you here. We talked about, you made mention of the legislature. At the return of this current democratic experience in Nigeria, 1999 and thereabouts, the legislature, both at the local government council, the state, and at the federal level, appear to be very assertive. How do you reconcile the quality of legislature we have in our present experience with what it used to be and what the ideal situation should be?
Well, it is the opposite. The taxpayers' money has been wasted since 1999. Since we want to dwell our discussion within 1999, which of course is the First Republic. Sorry, the Fourth Republic. So I want to say that very strongly that our taxpayers' money has been wasted over time. If you look at Nigeria, we have more than 8,000 plus councillors at the local level. We also have 2,000 plus legislatures in the 36 states. We have 360 as rep members and of course 109 senators. If you put this in together, you would have known how much Nigeria would have spent in their retreat, their withdrawal allowances and whatever and what have you. All these things they have not been able to, showcase their strength. That constitutional mandate with which they have to give quality and effective legislative processes in Nigeria, it becomes a charade.
All right, let me bring Barrister Kanwi. Barrister Kanwi, let's get your thought on the experience so far, our democratic experience as a nation. We are talking about the institutions that ordinarily should make the democratic experience to be effective and functional in the country. Let's get your perspective, sir. I said, let's get your view on what it has been like over time. We are talking about the institutions that make the democracy work better here in the country Nigeria. How would you express, what is your view on the experiences so far in terms of these institutions performing their functions towards making our democracy more effective? Sapia, we are still having issues with Barrister Kanwi over there. We are talking about the legislature. Before we get to other institutions, what do you think should have been the ideal role the legislature should be performing in our democracy to make it more responsive to the needs and aspirations of Nigerians?
Oversight function. In every effective and efficient legislature, there is oversight function. This oversight function is a constitutional mandate given to the legislatures, and that is where you see them trying to oversee or trying to observe what the other arms of government are doing, the executive and the judicial. You understand my point? So I want to use this word, they are the bell ringers. They are the people that they are the particular arm of government that are supposed to raise alarm when things are going wrong. You understand my point? So I'm making laws that could bring a better society, bringing the moral values of our dear state or country, if you like. without which we continue to be where we are. Because you cannot just elect a legislature to represent a people. You cannot interface with the people you are representing. There is no cross-border ideas. You remain where you are in your comfort zone. Ask me, since after 2023 general election to date, how many of the elected members have gone home to go and know the plight of our people? How many? Just count. How many? Has there been town hall meetings to interface with these people? Because you are elected to represent them via representative democracy. So if you cannot interface with people who sent you for accountability and purposeful leadership, to what extent will you convince every other person that you are effective in discharge of your duty?
Pastor Kanwe, if you can hear us, let's get your view. How effective, or let's get your appraisal of our democratic institutions since they returned to democracy. I earlier asked them, okay, it appears we are still having issues with Barrister Kanwe. All right, let's look at the judiciary, a very sensitive arm and institution that should make our democracy work. They have been concerned about the performance of the Nigerian judiciary. And of recent, not quite long, there was an increase in the wages, the salaries of judicial officers. It was intended to make them independent, to have that independent mind to discharge their duties according to what it ought to be. In the realities of today's Nigerian democracy, how will you appraise the judiciary, its role to sustaining a vibrant democracy in Nigeria?
Well, there is this popular slogan among the political elites: announce me winner or pronounce me the winner. The opponent, you can go to the courts. What does that tell you? So I think we need a holistic overview of Nigerian system. Everything that has to do with Nigerian democracy is not working at all. There are so many plethora of judges, or rather judgments, within the social space, where people making appraisal of what judiciary is all about these days is nothing to write home about. And people will always want to say that judiciary is the last hope of common man. But I want to agree with Rasmachus, a political philosopher. He says that justice is the advantage of the stronger as against the weaker. That is what is obtainable in Nigerian state. Judgment have been procured. Judiciary, for me, is not helping matters. It's a very sacred institution that's supposed to be cherished. If we destroy Nigerian judiciary the way I'm seeing the thing is going, if care is not taken, it will be difficult for people to go to the court and still have confidence that they could have judgment in the court. And it is disturbing in the sense that Nigerian Bar Association has been docile. Nigerian Bar Association has been, inactive in the sense that they would have called back the senses of some of these corrupt judicial office holders, because the Nigerian Bar Association are the ones issuing license to lawyers, isn't it? So I think there is
the NJC should be the body responsible for this.
Yes, but all the same, the parent body of lawyers in Nigeria is Nigerian Bar Association.
Okay.
You must belong to Nigerian Bar Association. You must have a branch. You understand me? Because in fact, you must be an MBA member before you even talk of becoming a member of NJC, isn't it? It's a parent organization, because you agree to be a member of the bar through what? Through Nigerian Bar Association. You understand my point? So why I'm talking tough about Nigerian Bar Association is assumed to be a non-governmental organization, sort of. You understand me?
It's a professional body.
Yes, supposed to be apolitical. But if you are talking about NJC, because of the fact that the presidency appoints who or determines who becomes member of NJC, because it is the executive that will appoint you to be a judge. From there, you can ascend to the apex court in Nigeria, which is the Supreme Court. You understand my point? So what I'm trying to say in a sense is that I need more actions. I need more actions from Nigerian Bar Association. At least to serve as a deterrent to erring judges who give judgment based on sentiment. I may not want to be particular about judgment, but I'm trying to say holistically what we have had over time. Yes, like Chief Justice of the Federation will always say that law is not might. It's not just mere say. You cannot assume what's supposed to be. You understand my point? Just to protect that honorable profession. However, what we have seen so far is not really commendable at all. It's not really commendable at all. Looking from 2023 general election, there are so many cases that went to court. And if you watch videos, there are disturbing videos where you have plethora of evidence before the honorable court. And they will dismiss, in their right judgment, in their good conscience, they dismiss some of all these cases. Even when they see that some of these judges have erred in their judgment, they become so impotent. No action. So you cannot operate a system the way it is, the way I'm seeing in Nigeria. Let me tell you, in America, where we borrow the leaf for this modern democracy, as defined by Abraham Lincoln, in 2020 general election, the president-elect now, the former president, Donald Trump, could not concede defeat after American electoral body declared Joe Biden the winner of election. Donald Trump went to court from one court to another. Americans said, no, we have grown past this level. Our institutions are very strong. You cannot destroy our institution because of your ambition of returning to power. Remember, Donald Trump was still the incumbent president. All this legal hurdle, he was still the president. But the judges said, no, America first.
Let me cut you in here, because you have made a very vibrant reference to what is happening in America. In that climb, we still have heads of these democratic institutions appointed by the political leaders, but yet they don't subscribe. I mean, they don't chicken in to the compromise to the dictates of these political leaders. So what is wrong with our own system here?
That is the question of national consciousness and patriotism. You understand my point? If you love your country, you will always want to do everything to uphold the rules, the values of the founding fathers of this country. You don't. Exactly what is happening in America. You don't. And remember, the fact that the president appointed who does not mean that the president pays. The president is a servant. The governor is a servant. The local government chairman is a servant. The councillors, the rep members, the senators, they are just servants. That is why it's working. They see themselves as just servants. Because we cannot go out there, all of us, and speak one voice and come back. No. Somebody must be there. And that is why you see representative democracy. And that is why the process that brings them to power must be transparent. What is happening in America? Let me tell us, the same institution that Donald Trump was trying to manipulate to come back to power, sort of. The same institution helped him to return to the White House come January, isn't it? What if he has destroyed that same institution? It becomes a norm. It becomes a general phenomenon. He wouldn't have had it the way it is today. Who is ready to pay that sacrifice? It was during Yar'Adua that we started seeing some kind of changes in Nigerian politics. All of a sudden, like people will say, but that didn't the last. The man died. To the extent that he acknowledged that what brought him to power was fraud. But he is here to right the wrong. That is the point. So, if the judiciary cannot stand by and say, no, this Glutonio us or us should stop. Why will somebody continue to control you? Why will you continue to be tool for evil? And that allow the institutions to die a natural death, forgetting that you have children unborn. What can you tell your children in your good conscience? It is important. So that is why we need to conscientize those find themselves in the corridors of power. And we wouldn't do this if the right people are not elected to be there. So that is the point.
Now, the key concern now, aside from those who are elected to occupy elective positions, those who are appointed or by way of growing in the civil service to occupy these democratic institutions, what are those things that are done differently? You made reference to America. We have similar thing in the UK and other developed countries. What are those things that those who occupy our own democratic institutions need to be adopting this time around if we must grow our democracy and make progress as a nation?
Centric approach, not individualism. They should see themselves as servants, not just leaders. They should see themselves as the servants of the people. That is the point. Okay, look at this doping viral video of the rep member from Abia State manhandling a dispatch rider, even though the man has come on a public apology and trying to resolve the issue. If the police, the DSSS, the army, in fact, all the security apparatus in Nigeria could be very much proactive and say, no matter where you find yourself, you cannot destroy the system the way it is. That is the point. So, you don't just because somebody appointed you, for that reason, you want to do the biddings of that person who appoints you. We should resign honorably, like as is done in foreign countries. Look at what is happening in Equatorial Guinea. A public office holder is now under a public scrutiny. But we are the big brother Africa. Our foreign policy has been Afrocentric, trying to play the big brother stuff. We should play this big brother stuff in Africa to the extent that we should be emulated. It's affecting our currency. It's affecting our economy. Everything in Nigeria is not working because the people who we say for the time being take care of these institutions come there for a jamboree. You don't just continue to in the morning you want to come and bow down to whoever that appoints you. You are not hungry, man. These judges you are talking about, before the 300 upward review of their salaries and allowances, they are not small boys, they are big boys. They are big boys. That self-sufficient must be there. We must be self-contented.
I think that word is what is lacking in this.
Yes.
Self-contentment.
Yes. Yes. We must be honest and tell ourselves the truth. What is it for? What is it for? One day, I was reading one online report from South Africa. Nelson Mandela, his grandchildren evicted naturally from his mansion. Why? They can no longer pay bills. The walls continue to crack. The compound is crumbling. What is it for? Mandela is no more. After acquiring all these things to ourselves, are we even sure that the children we are leaving this in can take care of it? From one court to another, payment of money, doing this on. It's enough. We have a lot of undergraduates roaming the street. We have a lot of out of school children, which this taxpayers' money lavishing to showcase strength, powerful individuals, bringing down the system to make sure that you project yourself as the hero of Nigeria. It doesn't work. So it is time that those who find themselves within the corridors of power have a rethink. People go to America, people go to UK, people go to Canada, people go to France. They are the ones going and see how things are working. Look at Malaysia of yesterday has gone past Nigeria. People are now going to Qatar. People are going to Equatorial Guinea. People are going to all these small African countries. It's a shame. So if your institutions are not working, it's assumed that you are becoming a failed state. It's assumed that you are becoming a failed state. So we cannot continue to entrust governance in the hands of enemies of this country. These people are political buccaneers. They are political entrepreneurs. These people are demagogues. We are looking for statesmen who will take care of this country, at least to some reasonable extent.
All right, we'll pause here and go for a break. When we come back, this program continues. Stay tuned.
How many people are capable of going to the bookshop to purchase just a book?
Is going to curb some of the ills we have experienced from our past elections. But if we don't checkmate and put some of these things that are going to aid effective electronic voting, we are going to fall back.
If you want to invest wisely on assets, you must invest on things that will generate returns.
Many people, instead of them to plan, look for what to do. They will be going from one prayer house to the other, looking for prophets to prophesy to them, declaring that this year is a year of harvest. Have you planted? If you did not plant, you can't harvest.
Money over billions have been sunk into the place. Go and check whether the money is circulating that. So how many persons do you tell this of this contractor to engage? How many per site are per slot?
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is our weekly current affairs program highlights, and our focus on this edition is how we can strengthen Nigeria's democratic institutions. I've been discussing with Comrade Peace Akabwe, who is a member of the civil society. Comrade Akabwe, before we went for that break, you made reference to the Western countries, and one particular thing I noted in your conversation is about Nigeria being a pluralistic state with many ethnic groups. In all of these other countries, we also have other ethnic groups. America is not a single, one ethnic group, is a multi-ethnic nation, just like you have other developed countries. But we still have individuals who oversee these democratic institutions and they serve public interest. Where do we begin from?
Well, you see, the drafters of Nigerian Constitution as a federal state may not have made any mistake, but the ability of the citizens of the country to accept that same constitution is another problem. Because if you look at some of what this Western world, they believe in what their constitution says. And that is why the moment they go contrary to what the constitution says, they don't even need somebody to remind them. The former Prime Minister of Britain during the COVID, if you can remember, he violated the COVID rule. He never wanted anybody to say, this rule, I have violated this rule. He made a tender public apology. Who can do that in Nigeria? So you see, the spirit and soul, the oxygen of democracy remains constitution. If we continue to respect our constitution, we cannot make any headway. But we should obey it. We only respect our constitution, but we are not obeying the constitution. And then as much as those who find themselves in corridors of power would want to downplay on Nigerian constitution, we cannot get it right. And that is what calls for strong institutions. So those institutions who ordinarily would come say, Guy, you are our servant, you have aid. The moment the people who found themselves in the corridors of power notice or rather observe your body language, the next minute you are off. Look at what happened to Walter Onoge, the former CJN. He was asked to leave. The reason best known to them. There was fears. I'm not comfortable with this person. This current administration came, so many persons were retired from the Nigerian army to make sure that the late army general became the chief of army staff. We're also talking about the current inspector general of police. A lot of people are saying that he has retired. He's supposed to have gone out of the villa, but he's still there. So what I'm trying to say in a sense is that we must obey our constitution to the letter. We spend money to draft these constitutions, for crying out loud. And that is why, like I said before, in as much as we are not having or we don't have effective representation at the National Assembly, state assemblies, and of course local government level, we cannot make any headway. Because the principle of check and balances, what we see now, romance me, I romance you. Former Senate President will say, whatever be that former President Buhari bring in, we shall pass it into law. The same thing is also going now in this current administration, where people will go to the streets and protest. You say, protest, I will be in my parlor, eating, drinking. I will be at the dining room, eating and whining. People should go and protest. Go and hug transformer, thunder fire you.
Those are allegations.
But I have not mentioned anybody's name, but these are things that are very obvious. We are seeing in the social media. It is in the various social platforms. So making reference to some of all these comments, you understand me? That tells you that we are still very far.
To continue on our discussion, there's a group, another democratic institution now on the side of the populace, not on the part of the government, the pressure group and civil society. How would you appraise the role of this group, the groups, talk about pressure groups, the civil society groups, in the last, say, 24 years of our democracy? How have they been effective in engendering a viable democracy in Nigeria?
I have to be very much honest to you. The pressure groups, the civil society organizations are more effective during the military era. If they were not effective during the military era, Nigeria wouldn't have been a democratic state. But now, it is becoming more difficult. There is no enabling environment for these persons to.
How come they had an enabling environment when it was a military regime, and now there is not the enabling environment is no longer there?
It's a serious question. This question you ask me is a very serious question. Politics. People were thinking that the moment we get this democracy to work. That was the spirit. But very unfortunate, the government were given to the wrong hands who nurtured it. And the thing metamorphosed to what we are seeing today. And now, various civil society organizations, human rights organizations have started aligning with one political party or the other, which ordinarily supposed not to be. Because the civil society organizations and human rights organizations supposed to be the mouthpiece of the nation. The pressure groups supposed to be the mouthpiece of the nation. But today, though a general character of the pressure group, self-interest. Self-interest. The moment the interests of our members are actualized, forget about it.
Given the realities in the country, would you say the pressure groups and civil society groups, the interests of their members are protected or realized?
To some extent. I want to use Labour, which is supposed to be the parent pressure group. When the time of negotiation for increment in salary, Labour shut down Nigeria. Now there is hike in fuel price 2-3 times. Have you seen Labour? No. People are crying from one end of the country to another. Has Labour been able to say it? No. Even the NBA we mentioned before, no. And other professional bodies, they have been docile. They have been impotent. But if it's something that concerns our members, they will take it up. Forgetting that these other persons who are not their members are also part of the society. And you cannot build yourself without the society. That is the point. So to crown it all, politics, and showcasing of wealth by these political entrepreneurs is becoming disturbing. And people say, well, the best option is for me to join politics. They join the politics to get fair share of the national cake. It becomes worried.
if we must reinvent the way or pressure group or the civil society organizations, what do we need to do as a people, as an organization, and as a nation?
It's nothing but education for me. We need to educate our people to the language they could hear. We need to sensitize the people. Each time I come in here, there is one particular government agency that I keep talking about. And what is it? National Orientation Agency. National Human Rights Commission. Do you see? These two commissions does not even make the news. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. So this would have been the areas where you'll be going. There would have been jingles. From one station to another to sensitize the people they need. And there would have been stakeholders engagement. Call these leaders. They will come for a workshop. Try to conscientize them to the need that their country, Nigeria, is struggling. I was reading one report. I've forgotten the person that posted that report. Said it is heartbreaking that Nigeria, the big brother Africa, has the weakest currency in the whole Africa. Weakest currency in the whole Africa. What a shame. Oh, we are here. That is why Professor Patrick Nubumba of Kenya will always ask them, are you horrible members or you are honorable members? What our people passed through in the hands of the colonial masters, we are now suffering more now that our brothers are ruling us. What an irony. So, it is very much important that the democratic institution we saw, we should try to localize it to the need of the people. Like Julius Nyerere would say, that politics is local, democracy is local. The locality of our own politics should reflect the needs of the people. And that is the way it works. If not, we continue to use bricklayer approach to it. There must be a paradigm shift, the way we used to do our things. But it's difficult. Just go on the street. Yes, there is no nation that could guarantee 100% human rights. There could be infractions, however. Go to the street and say, government this, government that. You know what? The same police, the same army, the same DSSS that have children in public universities, in public schools, they will ask them to go after you and flog you. Who won't die? These are some of the problems we are having.
A major concern, exposure of malfeasance in public offices is one way groups or civil society could also help to engender good governance. Now, there seems to be a wave of concern over the fact that sometimes when a group comes up to raise issues about malfeasance or maladministration, those being accused begin to term them as opponents, political opponents, and you cannot decipher the thin line between those who mean well for the populace and those who have political interests. How do we deal with this in our polity?
Well, like I said earlier, there is nothing you can do without education to test run the psychology of whoever. Now is not the time of election. When it's getting to 2025, you will see plethora of charity organizations sponsored by these same politicians. They will take you unawares. Before you know it, you see billboard. The moment you have eaten and whining and dining with them, the ability of the same person who wine and dine with them to challenge them in public debate wouldn't be there any longer. So that is the problem. And that is why I'm saying that there is need for us to educate our people to the language they will hear. That is the point. So we cannot continue to shout democratic institutions, this and that, when people are not educated. When people have not come to the reality of the fact that everybody needs to protect democracy. your little contribution matters. As I am here talking, people are hearing me. People are also making comment in social media. We need to educate our people that we need a vibrant and effective democratic institutions. So if these things are not in place, it's a serious problem.
Our political parties and the INEC, how do you reconcile their place in making Nigeria's democracy work? And what has been the experience in the last 24 years or thereabouts?
Well, these are the three persons that we are struggling with: the INEC, judiciary, and the security. The moment you get these three things, you are in the executive chambers. Like I said before, the same people who are aiding and abetting these politicians, their salaries are being owed. Their children are being sent out from the school. There are sometimes their landlord evict them. Sometimes they don't even have fuel. They don't even have money to fuel their cars. Sometimes they trick. You see them clearing traffic against our own people, it becomes a problem. So there is need for advocacy. There is need for advocacy. You understand my point? That is why John Locke challenged Thomas Hobbes when he says that we should give our powers to the sovereign, the Leviathan, which is the government. And that the powers we are giving to the government, the Leviathan, is irrevocable. John Locke says no, that the power is revocable. You can revoke the power because you gave them the license to operate. It is also within your means to say enough is enough, but only when you educate it. So if you are empowered by education and there is something in your tummy, you can go out, because Karma says it is your social condition that determines your consciousness. It is not your consciousness that determines your well-being. Yes, because you must eat, according to Karmas, before you dance. You must eat before you worship. You must eat before you smile. But when people are hungry, using hunger as a social control, it becomes a problem.
Our electoral processes, how do you appraise how far and how well we have gone? Take a cue from what we just watched in the media, what happened in America, the seamless outcome of that process, and the responses that have also trailed the process. What lessons do we or should we learn as a nation from what is happening in other developed climes?
Well, we wouldn't say as a nation, we would say the executive arm of the government. What lesson can they learn? Did you hear inconclusive election? Did you hear? America started the election seamlessly and ended what? Seamlessly. The result declared. In fact, hours after declaration was made by the Electoral College, President Joe Biden invited Donald Trump immediately for towards transition to power. Has it happened in Nigeria? Apprehension everywhere. Network glitches. You know, they procure a lot of grammars which you may not find in any dictionary to pacify the people and have their way. The people only participate in the election, but the process of that election, they will be totally alienated from it. It's problem. It's problem. Immediately, and now everything in your social media, in your phone, everywhere, America was networked within that shortest period of time. Every vote, you will be seeing it where people are casting their vote. You will be seeing result immediately. Not here. INEC will come and speak a lot of grammar and deceive the people in the end. People were crying. 2023 general election. That same, the tears were still in their eyes. Edo election. The tears were still also in their eye. Kogi election. Imo State election. People are still complaining one end to another. But one thing that baffles me is that, you know, what makes policy or law, if you like, it is when you gather facts. Everything you pick, you need to, you know, dissect those informations. Give proper and unbiased analysis. That is how a nation grows. what actually went wrong. You put everything together, holistically, in your good consciousness, and say, this is the way to go. You profile solution. Where are we? The same problem. INEC will sensitize people. Come and vote. Your vote counts. 2023 election, I have been privileged to observe election as a local observer over time. What happens now? Allow them to vote. Don't make trouble. Snap, do whatever you want to do, but come to the RAC center. From RAC center to where the election will be declared. Forgetting that it is determinant of the future of the people. Because if you get your politics wrong, you get your governance wrong. And that is the point. It's just like you going to plant cocoyam and you think you want to get maize. It's not possible. So when people get to power through fraudulent means, they cannot even say yes. Sometimes in politics, the means with which you get to power may not count. But what counts is how you consolidate. And that is why Thomas Hobbes says, even in the face of tyranny, there could be stability of government. When the children are fed, the women are not molested, you can still achieve stability. But here, you get to the power through whatever means, you would not even want to try to consolidate on that gain you made and try to see how you can navigate and at least make the people happy. But we remain where you are. It's very unfortunate. So INEC should wake up, police should wake up, judiciary should wake up, and of course, the executive should wake up. If executive is ready that Nigerian democratic institutions should work, it won't even waste a little time. Have you heard of ICPC? Those who work with executive. Have you for once heard of ICPC? Permanent secretaries, the civil servants live large because of their romance with the political appointees, which ordinarily supposed to be protectors of our founding fathers' glory.
I think that will be our last issue on this conversation. The fight against corruption. You mentioned ICPC,
yes,
an investigation in the country. How will you appraise the fight against corruption and these agencies' ability to investigate corruption to logical conclusions?
Well, everything is child's play. If you are talking about corruption investigation in Nigeria, everything is child's play. You remember, a former governor was drilled to the extent that we say he reported to ICM to EFCC today. The same office will say no, he was not here. If you look at the gang up, you see that these persons have decided deliberately to gang up against Nigerian state, against their will. So for me, like I said earlier, whenever we get members of executive rights, every other thing can fall in place.
Our sincere gratitude to Comrade Peace Akabwe on your insight and thoughts on how we can strengthen Nigeria's democratic institution. We apologize that we couldn't bring you Barrister Isaiah Kamwe to join on this conversation owing to technical issues from his own end. This is where we'll end our conversation on highlights. We appreciate you, Comrade Akabwe, and also our viewers out there. We thank you for your time and enjoin you to join us same time, same station. Next week, we'll bring you another edition of this program. Have a fruitful day ahead of you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure coming here, a real privilege indeed.